Welcome to Visionaries Global Media, your number one source for podcasting entertainment. Visionaries Global Media, envisioning excellence on a global scale.
This is Banned from Ringside.
Tonight on the Banned from Ringside podcast, your full gear recap. NJPW's Power Struggle. We talk about the Wednesday Night Wars. We do our NXT TakeOver Do-Over of Chicago 2. And ooh, buddy, it's a doozy. That and a whole bunch more tonight on the Banned from Ringside podcast. Ditch that 9 to 5. It's time to feel alive. Hello, Mark. So welcome to the Banned from Ringside podcast. As always, I'm your host, Bill Vagey, a.k.a. James Handerbeek. And to my left, as always, we have Jason Cornelius Bell. What's going on, JCB?
Allow us to bow our heads as I read from the latest edition of the Banned from Ringside podcast, volume 181, chapter 3, verse 14. And the good smart saith, hashtag boo the heels. It is all good, baby. Listen, share, subscribe, repeat. Shout out to everybody that watched last week's episode on YouTube. Over 600 views on YouTube, which is absolutely ridiculous. I looked at it myself. I don't know why I was looking at YouTube yesterday at work, and I came across our YouTube page. For those who don't know, Banned from Ringside podcast on YouTube. I saw last week's episode, over 600 views. It damn near floored me. So thank you for all those who watched us on YouTube. Pass the word around to those who haven't. So like I said, listen, share, subscribe, repeat.
And out there,
thanks, Mom. I think it was my mom.
600 times?
Yeah.
He is an only child. Out there in Edwardsville, Illinois, we have Two Beer. Zach Pullman, what's going on, Two Beer?
Not much. I have two beers in front of me, and I really like that James Handerbeek, a.k.a. He was the star of Scott Dawson's Creek.
Varsity Blues.
Scott Dawson's Creek. That's very good. We have a bunch of stuff to talk about. We missed Zach last week. Zach, has it been, did we have 2 weeks in a row without you?
Did we? I don't.
No.
It's hard to tell. Like everything,
I feel like we did.
Together.
Anyway, we missed you last week. You're back.
I know. I felt like Hangman Page in the Elite. Just like odd man out.
That NXT TakeOver Do-Over, I watched it a while ago, and it's a burner. So I'm excited to do that. Before we get too far into it, we're coming at you from cloudy, overcast South St. Louis right now in my dope-ass basement. I mean, it's really cool down here. Little man cave. You know, when you're watching House Hunters, and it's like, oh, man, I need a man cave. That's what this is for me. Why don't you tell us about F&B Eatery, Jason?
Let me do so. F&B Eatery on the corner of 3453 Southampton and Marquette, home of the greatest smash burger you've never heard of. I'm still waiting for you jokers to slide into these DMs and let me allow you to grace my presence to yours with a gift card or two. Come on into the DMs, Banned from Ringside Pod. BFR JCB, BFR Bill, BFR Zach, all lowercase letters with an H. I got a $20 gift certificate with your name on it. All you have to do is let me know where you live. I will personally mail that joker to you myself. Like I said, I walk down some stairs, make a right, make another right. There's a mailbox. It's good to go. So do yourself a favor. Slide into the DMs, get yourself a gift card, and then go on over to F&B Eatery and tell them that Banned from Ringside sent you.
Let's get it started.
This is Banned from Ringside.
Oh, wait. No, I hit the wrong one. Let's get to that 3 count.
1, 2, 3.
I'm not drunk.
At least not yet.
Not yet.
All right, let's start it off. We're going to do it a little bit differently. We do it chronologically, but in this case, we're going to switch it up just a little bit and talk about Full Gear on Saturday night. AEW presents Full Gear, a loaded 4-hour show. My biggest takeaway from it personally was probably the opening match. I know the tag team match is the one that most people are focusing on, which for good reason. I think it was absolutely amazing. But for me, I thought the curtain jerker set the tone for the rest of the card when you have Page versus Omega. Winner is the new number one contender. and they came out and just let it go. Some of those V triggers looked a little stiff. The spot outside where Kenny bounces off the stage, that was stiff. I thought it was absolutely amazing, and I thought that, obviously, I think they did the right thing by letting Kenny go over here, prolonging the Adam Page story. I think that was really well done. Obviously, the tag team match was probably, like I said, the one that most people focused on, and without question, I don't blame anybody at a certain point when they were doing tributes to the great tag teams in the past. I thought that was very well done. The finish was just, mind-blowing. You could tell
it was perfect.
You could tell that they put serious thought into it, and it couldn't have been much better than what it was. It was damn near perfect. I hate to say perfect because I don't think anything in this world is perfect, but if there's something that was, this was damn near it, because it literally told the story of the rivalry in about 25 to 30 minutes. From there,
I'll keep that in mind that you said nothing is perfect when we start doing our NXT TakeOver do-over later, because I'm interested to look at some of them star ratings. Two Beer, what did you think about the Hangman Page Omega match?
It was great. It was a G1 match, essentially. And what I liked about it is that they didn't go out there like trying to steal the show. They went out there and had like this really awesome opening match that told the story they wanted to tell, and it was a really good match. And they were in and out in like 15 minutes, and it wasn't like you think whenever you see those guys come out, because I didn't know the rundown. I tune in. I'm like, oh shit, this is going on first. I'm like, that's a bold move, right? But yeah, they just had a really solid match. I loved the story. I loved, that little struggle for the one-winged angel at the end. It was just fantastic, and I'm excited to see where this goes. And the coolest part is these guys got together, and we were like, oh, like, these guys kick ass, like, together, and this is cool. But we all know that they're just together so they can break up and have this cool feud. And, like, now that they're broken up and feuding, I'm like, oh man, I can't wait till these guys get back together.
That is
like,
the
run roughshod.
the plight of the wrestling fan right there.
Right.
I obviously I love this match. For me, it's the first match, except for maybe the one against Chima. Is that how you say his name?
Shima.
Except for that one, it's the first time that we've really seen Kenny. I know that he fought Ambrose, but that was a different kind of match. Like this, like you said, this
was a lights out match or whatever.
Right. This was an NJPW style match. If these guys would have gotten another 10 minutes, there's no doubt that it would have been a 5-star classic.
It'd been damn near an instant classic.
I think it came in at 16.5, which is, that's what you want for the curtain jerker, like you said. But man, given the time, these guys would have put on an all-time classic. There's no doubt in my mind.
Well, I was commenting, I was going to say, because Page is going to get a title shot at some point, and then that's when they're just going to let them go and have one of those matches that we're kind of waiting and anticipating for.
All right, what's next, Jason?
Like I said, from there, we can jump to the top where Moxley retains the title in the I Quit match versus Eddie Kingston. Not too surprising for me, but it got a little cringeworthy when they broke out the barbed wire baseball bat, and Eddie Kingston took a part of it and wrapped it around his hand and tried to basically maim Jon Moxley with it. I thought that was, even though it was predictable, it still told a good story. It made me get into it in certain spots, so I have to tip my hats to them. Obviously, we talked about the tag team match a little bit. Sheeta retains over Nyla Rose. I guess Nyla and Vicky Guerrero are going to have some sort of beef. It was okay. I don't want to shit on the women's division too much. For me, the next biggest takeaway from it was the start of my golden prediction coming to play. MJF defeats Jericho in a little, I won't call it fuckery, but let's call it smoke and mirrors, where we distract the referee to get the pin. So MJF now officially in the inner circle as of last night, on the way to Vegas for next week. Like I said, I think that's going to be an amazing ride. I still wish that Sammy Guevara would have been the one to face off against Jericho or face off against MJF to have the right to get into the inner circle, but that's my personal fantasy booking. Speaking of one, Sammy Guevara, he loses his match against Matt Hardy in the, I guess it's the Ultimate Deletion match. For me, this is palate cleanser. I think we kind of all know where I stand on matches such as this. I was glad it was a cinematic match, so that way you can kind of get what you were looking for ultimately. And it looks like they're going to put this thing to bed, even though on Wednesday night, Hardy did call out Sammy Guevara for a little bit, but gave him begrudgingly props for sticking with this feud. But ultimately, I'm a little disappointed because I know it's Matt Hardy's bread and butter. This is his match, but I don't think it would have done any harm if he would have ended up losing this match. Sammy Guevara got himself over. He's been getting himself over with this whole feud, but for me, I wouldn't mind to see him winning this particular match, but neither here nor there.
Zach, thoughts on anything or everything?
I think the tag team match was maybe the best tag team match I've ever seen. I was watching it again when you guys called it was the third time. It was just an ode to tag team wrestling. I mean, it was just so perfectly done and so smart, and the psychology of the match was so much better than the build up to the match, because the build up was like kind of hit and miss with the Young Bucks kind of doing that weird heel stuff, and I didn't really catch on to that. But then they come in here and they're like, let's do a rundown of the past 30 years of tag team wrestling in one match,
right,
and we're gonna do this like incredibly like smart match. It was awesome. I loved it. And the other match that I particularly loved, because I mean, Moxley and Eddie Kingston was cool, but it's just bonkers, like violent. MJF and Wardlow had a fun story, but like it wasn't like a great technical match or anything. But Darby Allin and Cody Rhodes, that match was killer. And Cody is kind of playing heelish, champion. He's like doing that, he's got a big time in Darby,
Push-ups in the ring was the one thing that stood out in my mind.
Yeah, for sure. And Darby's like super fast, and he's able to, outmaneuver Cody, and he's flustering him, and he keeps rolling out, having to like consult with Arn. And then they do the spot that never ends a match, the roll up to the roll up, and they're rolling around the ring, and then he gets one, and 1, 2, 3, it's over. And it was super cool because that spot rarely ends a match, like especially in WWE, you don't really see it that much, or anywhere for that matter. So it was a nice pop, cool story. Cody hands him the belt, and gets down on one knee, and then Taz comes out and is a heel and ruins it. But I thought that was like, outside of those two standout matches of the tag team and the Omega Page, like that thing overachieved. And also Orange Cassidy, John Silverman.
I was thinking
that. Those guys overachieved too. Like if there was an actual audience, that match would have gotten over huge, because both those guys are so over. Watch Being the Elite and stuff, and like they have such big personalities. It's so cool.
Cody Darby Allin was great. I mean, it was really awesome. I love Team Taz. I am really coming around on Team Taz. I like having factions.
Really? I wouldn't think you would have been a Team Taz guy.
I've always liked Taz. I like the dynamic of having Taz as the talker and just these two guys, one of whom is this massive behemoth, Leviathan,
the walking wall.
And Ricky, I like Ricky Starks too. I like Team Taz. I like them as a foil for Darby Allin.
You know what your favorite part of them is? Is that they beat up Darby Allin. That's your favorite part.
I mean, we'll get to win tonight. Dynamite later. Okay, so it was a spectacular pay-per-view. I'm going to come in and be the wet blanket on a couple things here, okay? The first one being the tag team match, and this is probably a product of me already knowing who had won by the first time I saw it, and I watched it twice. I watched it one time, kind of banged up. I watched it today again while I was working. Obviously, those guys can fucking go. My problem with the Young Bucks sometimes is that they get a little too cute. It's just a little too cute. And the going through 30 years of wrestling thing, doing everybody's finishers, it's just a little too cute for me. It didn't seem, I mean, it seemed to, like, it's like Ricky Jay says in Boogie Nights. He says to the chick who's licking the thong as they introduce videotape into the world of porn, he goes, hey, that's really good technically, but it lacks passion. I want to see some passion. That's how I feel about that Young Bucks match. Like, it was really good technically, and I think that the Revival are great. I just thought it was a little too cute. Now, that being said, of course, I'd still give it 4.25 stars, 4.5 stars. It was fucking spectacular. But from everything that I heard coming into it, they're like, everybody says, this tag team match is going to blow you away. Best tag team match you've ever seen. And honestly, I thought it was really good. I think that there's been some NXT TakeOver tag team matches that have equaled it. Okay? That's number one. Number two, and you guys, I don't know if you guys are going to like this or you're going to hate it. MJF is bad in the ring. MJF is slow as fuck, especially for a 23-year-old. He lumbers around for a little guy. I understand he's not in there for his technical ability, and he's in there because he's a great character and he's great on the stick. But that match was not good. And I like how when everybody's talking about Full Gear, they just kind of, and I'm not saying this about Zach because Zach glossed over it, but Zach glossed over it and said it wasn't a technical masterpiece. Other people just aren't even talking about it. They're only talking about the storyline aspect of it. That match was bad. Thoughts, Jason?
We'll start with the tag team match first. I get it. I don't necessarily agree with you on it. I thought the ode to tag team wrestling, I thought that was probably one of the highlights of it. Cash Wheeler doing the 450.
It was just supposed to be this dream match that everybody's been waiting for with FTR and the Young Bucks, and they decided to use that time to do this tribute to 30. I don't know. It just seemed exhibition-y to me instead of two guys trying to win the belts.
I think with the stip, that was already kind of built into it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was do or die for the Bucks, whether you like the stip or not. I think, like I said, I get why you're saying that, and if it was already built in to be a rematch, which I'm sure it will be, maybe you could have did this ode to tag team wrestling the second time around. Fair enough. The match itself, I thought was really, really done well, and like I said, for me personally, that spot of finishing moves, the ode to tag team wrestling, was one of the best spots of the night. Okay? Now, the second part where we're talking about MJF and Jericho, I wasn't looking for it to be a technical masterpiece. I disagree with the fact, what do you want MJF to be? He's not Darby Allin. So, I mean, if you look at him like this, you're going to get a certain type of wrestler. This is the wrestler that is a character first, wrestler second. So I'm not looking for him to come out and have this Daniel Bryan, technical masterpiece. I'm not looking for Zack Sabre Jr. I got what I was looking for in the sense of it continued the storyline. MJF is not a great wrestler, okay? He is a great character, okay? And that to me is the more important thing. So you got to kind of look at it for what it is. Chris Jericho now turning 50. I'm not looking for him to be bouncing off of everything, but I mean, hell, he did the Lion Salt. He did the Frankensteiner off the top, which was absolutely fucking amazing for 49 at the time. So, I mean, I get what you're going with it, but I got to push back on a little bit with the MJF thing because because of his size, you're kind of pigeonholing him into this particular type of wrestler, and he's not Darby Allin. He's not Matt Sydal from 10 years ago. He's MJF.
No, he's a manager.
Please.
Tell me I'm wrong. Man. Tell me I'm wrong, Zach. Tell me how stupid I am.
MJF, no, it's not that. I mean, like, you're not stupid. Like, you're one of the smartest guys I know. Just
Thank
you have
you.
this really bad opinion of MJF. Just like he is not like Jason said, he's not Daniel Bryan, but like this dude is so good, and I think he's really good in the ring, and I just think that he wrestles a very, and whether you like it or not, like he's wrestling like a 70s, 80s like style of match, like in the ring. Like I'm pretty sure MJF probably watches more like NWA than he does like WCW or like Attitude Era, like WWF or like whatever, right?
Okay.
Like, I just feel like I think the person that he reminds me of the most in the ring, and this is weird because they're both really great talkers and they're both larger than life characters. But one is definitely more athletic than the other. Like he reminds me of The Rock in the ring, like not maybe necessarily so, I don't want to say like explosive or just like kind of like electric, you know, like The Rock like really was, you know, with that little
Well
extra
played.
pizzazz on every, you know, he had a little extra oomph on everything, but like, you know, he's never going to the top rope, you know, he's doing abdominal stretches.
I was thinking more like Bob Backlund.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, if you want to like go back and, you know, I think
He doesn't remind me of The Rock at all. He doesn't.
The
I was trying to come up with a
personality.
modern- I'm trying to come up with like a modern example that like some people would know, because even if I say like Ted DiBiase, they're gonna think like $1 Million Man, but like Ted DiBiase was like so much more like before he was $1 Million Man.
Agreed.
All right.
You just have to like spend the time to go back. Anyway, I think he's better than you're giving him credit for, especially because he's younger.
Maybe.
And just because he's young doesn't mean he has to do flips. I think he will be one of the greatest wrestlers we've ever seen. Like in 20 years, we're still going to be talking about MJF, and then we're still going to be talking about the time that he told you to not get wing sauce on his jacket. You know what I mean?
Little fucker.
I was about to say, Bill's having a little seizure over here. Give him a second.
I'm not asking him to do flips. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying he is slow in the ring. He doesn't really run the ropes. You know what modern wrestler he reminds me of? You remember when John Cena used to do the 5 moves of doom, and there's always that spot where the guy does a really wild swing and it's really slow, and Cena ducks it right before he puts on the 4th move of doom or whatever? That's what MJF looks like all the time. He barely swings through, and I'm not looking for them to put on a 5-star classic, and I'm not expecting Jericho to carry the weight. Jericho has proven him. Jericho has more than proven himself. That's the understatement of the day. Jericho has proven himself as a good wrestler. What I'm looking for is a guy that doesn't look slow, that a guy that looks kind of athletic, that, you know, it's not. Did you ever think that maybe he wrestles in the 70 and 80 style? And that's because that's the only way he can wrestle? Does anybody else on the modern wrestling landscape wrestle in that 70, 80 style?
I'm sure we can find that out. I mean, as much
Off the top of your head.
Well, I would say yeah, because I mean, there's way too much wrestling out there.
Off the top of your head, name a guy
that
I
wrestles.
mean, there's like aspects of it that people incorporate. I don't necessarily think that people encapsulate, like, you know, for instance, like the FTR, right? That is a perfect example because
They're totally
do
an arm for
some modern stuff.
Yeah,
except for that 450, right?
except for the 450.
Except for
Which
the
lost them the match,
450.
right?
Except for the 450.
Deviated from the thing. If MJF did a 450, he'd be losing that match too, right? Like that was the story. He deviated from their
No fists,
their play,
no
their
flips,
playbook.
just fists. Yeah.
Yeah, but MJF couldn't do it.
Oh, are we sure?
Oh, I'm sure.
I don't know. He just did a song and dance number the other week. We didn't
When
think he could do
Cash
that.
Wheeler did that 450, did you not just even though he missed?
By the way, I don't know which one's Cash Wheeler and which one's the other
at
one.
the very end, when the dude got up on the top rope and did the 450
No, I know.
and missed,
I don't remember which one it was, though.
it don't matter. My point is that this is something that is not a realm of what they do. So when he did it, I'm like, oh shit, he did a 450, even though he crashed and burned. To me, that was more important than him actually hitting the move because he was doing something outside of the comfort zone of what they normally do.
Fair enough.
I think it's incredibly smart because like the dude's way less likely to get injured, which ends careers more than anything. I mean, modern Tanahashi doesn't wrestle like 10 years ago.
Miz is a
Tanahashi.
great example of somebody that wrestles a 70 and 80
my
style.
God. Miz is
Except Miz
is
can't wrestle.
Miz
My
is,
opinion of Miz is like Bill's opinion of MJF.
oh
no,
my
but
God,
it's-
Miz is so much better in ring than MJF. It's not even
my God.
close.
Do
Wow.
you have eyes?
It's
Wow.
not even close.
They're really
bub.
literally the same guy. They're great talkers and at least passable in the ring. At least passable.
Oh, Miz is way better than passable in the
What?
ring.
What's Miz's best match ever? I'll give you Dolphin Miz for the Intercontinental Championship. I'll give you that.
I mean, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Match is whatever the shortest one is. That's the best one.
See, you ain't shit.
Anyway, I'm not here to, and we're not here to litigate Miz versus MJF. It's just a fun conversation, and I'm not here to shit on this pay-per-view either because
It'd be hard to do it.
honestly, I think it's the best effort that AEW has put forth thus far as a pay-per-view from top to bottom.
Strong words. Okay.
And also, I should also point out, I like the story that they're telling with MJF and the Inner Circle. In fact, dare I say, I love it. And I don't want MJF to go anywhere. It is important to remember, though, that he's 23 or 24 years old. And even though we have these prodigies now, like Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne and Velveteen Dream and guys like them, and Velveteen Dream's not even on the same level as the other two that I just mentioned. It's important to remember that most wrestlers don't really get good in the ring until later on.
Okay, so let's
28, 29.
So let's kind of give him a little leeway. If he's that slow, then maybe he will improve in.
Well, that's what everybody does when they get older. They get faster. I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back.
This motherfucker here.
The Eddie Kingston Moxley match, I have become an Eddie Kingston mark. He is maybe the best talker in all of wrestling.
Arguably, he's in my top 5 for sure.
And that's the first big match that I've seen him in, and that's probably the big. I mean, it's the biggest
Probably
match
the
of his
biggest match
life.
of his life, yeah.
And I thought that he was great. I thought that they told the story. I thought that his facial expressions were great. I loved it. I loved it 100%. What you think, Zach?
Oh yeah, I mean it was awesome. Like when you went in there, you knew it was going to be a fight. I like that they didn't do the microphone in the face kind of like, do you quit? Do you quit? Do you quit thing? Like, Ric Flair, Terry Funk is like the classic example of the best I quit match.
Yeah, I was about to say that's one of my favorites.
But they didn't do that. They just went in there and like beat the hell out of each other until one guy quit. And I was watching it at work, like when we were cleaning up, and my phone was there, and I like ducked out for a second. And I come back, and my buddy's like, "Dude, this guy's got a bat with a wrapping barbed wire up against this guy's face." That's not surprising.
Yeah, it's pro wrestling.
I love when people that don't watch pro wrestling on a regular see something like that and just like, oh shit.
And you're like, yeah, Darby Allin wears a thumbtack jacket now.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
man,
what they do. It's no big deal.
Jason, any other thoughts about full? I keep wanting to say Full Sail. Any other thoughts
right.
about Full Gear?
John Silver, I thought I'm coming around on that. It might actually get me to start watching BTE because now I'm kind of curious of where things go from there. So I might watch that on the way home, or not on the way home when I get home. This was a solid pay-per-view show. There's no question about it.
It was an A.
I can't necessarily disagree with that. I mean, it's going to be really hard to say otherwise. And even with the knocks, with the women's match and other matches included, I can't necessarily disagree with that. The storylines that were presented really take precedence over what happened in the ring.
I'll tell you what, when it comes time to do the beefers, this is going to be on the short list of pay-per-view of the year. I mean, no doubt.
Oh yeah.
No doubt.
I can't necessarily say I disagree with that.
I mean, if we get a pay-per-view better than this,
shit, it better hurry up because they say we got about 7 weeks left.
Zach, any final thoughts?
I don't know, guys. Survivor Series is looking great.
Oh, man, it's brand versus brand. It's the only time of the year it happens, guys.
Stop.
Brand versus brand.
Stop. Y'all niggas need to stop.
I forgot about that.
Right now. Stop it.
Zach, any final thoughts?
No, I think it was an A.
I give it an A also.
I agree.
All right, let's get to that. 2 counts.
1, 2, 3.
2 beer. What's the 2 counts?
Saturday, November 7th, we had Power Struggle in New Japan. So this was a six-match card, and one of those interim shows between G1 and Tokyo Dome this year. Traditionally, we have this happening, G1 happening much earlier, but so this is kind of time to get some angles for the Tokyo Dome. So we're starting to set up matches, and Tokyo Dome's going to be January 4th and 5th again, which is why we see some of the booking that we see in the show. So opened up with Toru Yano beating Zack Sabre Jr. with a count out, typical Yano fashion, tied his shoelaces together.
Just for the record, I didn't see this. The boys didn't remind me of it. I need to be reminded of things like this.
What are you, fucking...
No, I got the reminder on my phone. I just forgot to watch it. But that sounds great. Toru Yano defeating Zack Sabre Jr., my two favorite New Japan wrestlers.
Jesus Christ. Fucking retarded. God, I hate fucking Yano so bad. I mean, see, this is what I'm talking about. This is the shit I'm talking about right here. Okay? Ain't no way in the world that Zack Sabre Jr. should be losing to Yano. No way in the world. Zack Sabre Jr. should have had this Joker tied up on the ring post within 5 fucking minutes. But yet and still, and I don't get it. Do people not watch Yano matches? I mean, do you not understand what he's going to do? This is the guy that's going to tie you up against anything he could possibly do. He's got tapes of rolls of tapes everywhere he fucking pops out. And the next thing you know, the referee can't find any of this shit. He's pulling it out of literally every orifice of his fucking self. And the next thing you know, Zack Sabre Jr. loses to fucking Yano. Give me a fucking break, dude. I'm over Yano. And this is the reason why I'm over it. Because half of it is so WWE. I don't come here to watch this shit. I know where I want to go, what I want to watch. Ridiculous, nonsensical booking.
He's heating up.
I go to WWE. I don't come here for New Japan. For New Japan, I want to see people get their ass handed to them and see who is the best.
Sounds like Zack Sabre Jr. got his ass handed to him.
Fuck you.
What was next, Zach?
Next was Minoru Suzuki and Shingo Takagi. And
okay, see, there you go.
A couple times recently, and it's always good. These guys beat the absolute shit out of each other. In fact, there's a moment in the match where Suzuki might have gotten New Japan is not like other promotions, so we probably would never find out it was actually concussed or knocked loopy, or if they are just that good of workers to where they worked all of us.
Well, you know how Suzuki has all those lines in his head. He has all those weird lines in his head.
Oh yeah.
And you know how a tree has rings for every year that it grows. Every time Suzuki gets a concussion, he gets another one of those lines.
Dude, God damn. You ain't supposed to make no jokes like that. Chris Benoit was rolling over in his grave.
Concussion, an angel gets its wings.
No, I like this. I like the Shingo match, honestly. I thought this is one of those feuds where I can watch over and over again without even a problem with it. I was a little surprised, honestly, that Shingo ends up going over and wins the never openweight title back. But I thought this was classic Shingo and Suzuki just getting it on.
Yeah, for sure. Really great. So, yeah, he wins with the Last of the Dragon. Then we had Okada versus the Great Okan. And this was pretty much make or break for Great Okan, right? You got your hot angle. You're the gatekeeper to Will Ospreay at the Tokyo Dome. And you're back from excursion, and it's time to have a good match and show yourself, to the Japanese audience again. And I wasn't feeling it. It was fine. But I tell you what, there's a couple young lions now that I would rather see in the ring with Okada than the Great Okan. I don't know if it was Great Okan's style or what, but I feel like if you can't have a banger match with Okada, you can't have a banger match with anybody. So Okada wins.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, Okada wins with the winning club, and it just didn't do anything for me. I'm not going to write him off or anything, but I feel like this was the time to shine, right?
No, I agree. This is one of those Roman Reigns, Jey Uso kind of matches where you knew how it was going to end, but how we were going to get there, to me, was the ultimate question. And then, this is not a knock against the Great O'Khan. I mean, you knew why he was there, but ultimately this was his chance to kind of get himself over, and he didn't do anything for me differently that made him stand out against arguably one of the greatest wrestlers in the world, given that opportunity. For me, at that point, it was more about setting up the Ospreay-Okada match for Wrestle Kingdom, which is obviously now official. So I agree with you. The match was okay, but I found myself having a hard time trying to stay invested in the match, especially when you kind of knew how it was going to end, and then just the performance itself was not very good. I mean, let's just call it for what it is.
So yeah, Chuck went up, another one up to the money clip, and then we had the first of two briefcase matches. So we have Kenta and Hiroshi Tanahashi. So Kenta successfully defends his United States championship contract against Tanahashi. I mean, this was a solid match. Like, both these guys are fantastic. I'd say both are past their prime, but both are still incredibly capable of putting on great matches. I mean, Tanahashi's a living legend, and
legend tapped out, which was to me the biggest surprise there. I'm going to say I wasn't sure that Kenta was going to keep the briefcase, but I was expecting a little fuckery, maybe Bullet Club getting involved, but a clean tap out. To me, that was the biggest takeaway for that match, myself personally. Outside the fact that Kenta is really fucking funny, and if you haven't watched any of the backstage comments from Power Struggle in the last couple of shows finishing it up, Kenta's really fucking funny. I mean, you wouldn't think he would be funny, but I swear it just blows my mind how really funny he is, and you don't get to see it in the ring. You get to see it in the backstage comments, and like I said, if you get a chance, check it out. I think it's worth the 15 minutes to check it.
Would you say he's like Yano funny, or would you say he's like Santino funny?
He's like Santino funny.
Okay, all right.
It's not physical in ring fight.
I can't believe you answered that seriously. I was completely fucking around.
No, it's the truth. It's more Santino Morello funny. It's more talking. It's more about running people down. And like I said, check out the backstage comments. You see what I'm talking about. But apparently there was a skit where he would run down one of the cameramen pretty much throughout the G1, and then that spilled over into the Power Struggle tour, and it's, like I said, it's one of the funniest things I've seen in a while.
Dude, Zack Sabre is hilarious too. Like,
dude, Zack Sabre Jr. doesn't get enough credit.
Part of the reason, I don't mind Yano beating him like that is because of the hissy fit you get to see him throw.
Yeah, I was going to say, to see a grown man flail around like that, there's something to be said about it. So yeah, so it does make me giggle, but it goes back to the same premise. Fuck Yano.
So then we had a second briefcase match. This is Jay White versus Kota Ibushi for the IWGP Heavyweight and Intercontinental Double Championship Right to Challenge contract. Never before has this contract gone undefended, and never before has anyone beaten someone for this briefcase. Jay White pulls it off. So lots of fuckery going on. I mean, this is a Bullet Club match. They went about 20 minutes.
Hold on. Jay White beat Ibushi?
Yes.
Jay White beat Ibushi. So
whoa, hold on a second.
It was one of those where it happened. I'm like, what the fuck?
I'm just sitting here watching wrestling, waiting to get to the segment where I get to talk a whole bunch. You're telling me that Jay White's now? Oh, okay. All right. Go ahead, Zach. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. And that's my reaction too. And I think this exists because of the 2-night main event, right? Like, you need to sell 2 nights of tickets at the Tokyo Dome. And even though you are selling, apologies for my neighbor's dogs, but even though they are selling limited capacity. They're still selling 2 nights at the Tokyo Dome, so they got to come up with 2 main events. So essentially, we have Evil versus Naito. Naito defends. This is like, how many times have we seen this goddamn match?
One too many.
But at the end of it, Ibushi comes out to like save Naito from the Bullet Club, and Naito essentially gives him his match. So it's going to be because Jay White says, "I've got this briefcase. I'm not working on January 4th. I'm going to let you defend it on January 4th, and I'll clean up the scraps, essentially, right? I'm going to take the night off. I'll fight you on January 5th and take the belts." So Naito, being, good guy, Ibushi just saved him. He's like, you know what? You won the G1. You deserve a shot at this title. Jay White doesn't want to work on the 4th. I'm going to give you a championship shot on the 4th. So effectively kind of kills the idea of the briefcase, right? And the G1, it's kind of weird. Like, I understand that they need to book 2 nights of this, and those are the realities, and this is the way that they chose to do it. But, oh my God, I mean, the whole point of this grueling multi-month tournament is to get a shot at the Tokyo Dome for the IWGP Championship. I mean, this is arguably the most prestigious thing in wrestling, right? And Ibushi loses it, and the same night he's giving it right back. And
yeah,
I don't love.
I get what you're saying, but now Jay White also has a shot at it. So that G1 title shot is still out there and still in play. I get exactly what you're saying. It does kind of invalidate. Well, it definitely invalidates. No, I see what you're saying. It's not the cleanest booking, and you certainly don't want to cheapen, like you said, the prestige of being the G1 champ. Jay White is out there with. So, I mean, essentially, Naito could lose, and it could be Ibushi for Jay White for the belt again.
That's what I think is going to happen.
I agree.
That's my early prediction is Ibushi takes it from Naito, and then he has to defend it against Jay White. We already know that Jay White has Ibushi's number from the G1, from, Power Struggle, and can he overcome the heel, especially because he's going to beat the fuck, because we've seen these Naito-Ibushi matches. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. But it was not as clean, like Bill said, as like we expect from Gedo, right? And they're putting him in a tight spot. It's a pandemic. Why do you need 2 nights at the Tokyo Dome? We did it for the first time last year. It was a major success, but you can only sell so many tickets. I don't know.
Well, I'll just rewind the whole thing. Evil and Naito, I'm kind of glad we're done with this now. We told that story. For me, the biggest takeaway from that match was seeing Jay White come out and trying to figure out who he was actually going to attack, because I'd always kind of wondered whether or not Evil and Jay White were going to have a Bullet Club faction feud going on, and it looked like it was going to happen, but then obviously Jay White turned on Naito to try to help out his Bullet Club member. So that was cool in that sense, but outside of that, we've seen that match before on multiple occasions. I'm glad that Naito retained the titles. It was kind of a little dicey coming down the stretch, but he retains. So in that scenario, I get where Two Beer is coming from, but I don't necessarily have a problem with how we got there. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't have a problem with the finished product. How we get there, okay, I agree with you on that. It kind of messes up the G1 and who it favors. I shouldn't say favors, but the prestige of it, the whole nine, the booking, I get that. But ultimately, we're at where we're supposed to be. Ibushi is going to get a title shot on night 1.
And I'm going to watch the fuck out of both those matches.
And, Jay White is basically on the on-deck circle. So, I mean, at the end of the day, even if Ibushi didn't lose the briefcase, we still get in the title match, and then we have the night 2. You could add easily Jay White sitting there in the on-deck circle again for January 5th because he beat Ibushi. So, I mean,
and it's
I get
possible,
it, but it's not that. It's not the end of the world.
It's possible that they're giving him the quote-unquote Daniel Bryan booking where Ibushi is going to beat Naito and then beat Jay White to ultimately it's going to be his.
It's no different than what happened last year.
It's going to be his Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with that. We're getting to where we ultimately the story is going to end where Ibushi is double champion. Even though he's not even wanting to be double champion, which I think is another.
They're just stacking the chips against him.
Yeah, for sure. But last year it was the same way, where Naito was the guy basically on the outside looking in, and then he had to win 2 matches in back-to-back nights. Ibushi's just gonna have to do the same thing.
Zach.
Oh yeah, we'll see how it goes. But
was that the main event?
I kind of said my piece. Yeah,
Naito
was the main event. So.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, it was unremarkable, right? Like, it was funny because even before this, like, if you watch the backstage comments, Naito, after the final night of G1, he's like, "Yeah, so it's gonna be, me and Evil at Power Struggle," and he's like, "We've all seen this match, so he's like, if you guys want to skip it, that's cool."
Yeah, I mean that's ultimately once he says that, that's really all I need to know.
We did tons of G1 coverage. You guys know where I'm at on Evil. So let's get to that 3 counts.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, the 3 count is the Miz and Morrison promo from Raw. No, I'm kidding. The 3 count.
I was about to say, what the fuck?
3 count is the Wednesday Night Wars. We've already talked about AEW. We've already talked about New Japan. We're going to bring it to NXT. NXT last night was interesting and, dare I say, pretty good. It started off with Gargano trying to break his streak of not being able to vend his belt. He spun the wheel. He rigged it, so he had to fight Leon Ruff. Leon Ruff is a guy who's basically been the punching bag on the very, very undercard. Isn't that what you'd say?
Well,
I mean, he fights on main event. He fights on NXT dark matches. He always gets beaten.
I was just going to say, for me personally, I recognized him from Evolve. Him and AR Fox were Evolve Tag Team Champions for a while, so I kind of knew what we were getting into with Leon Ruff, but ultimately I expected Gargano to retain the title.
Damian Priest distracts. Leon Ruff wins the North American Championship out of nowhere. I don't care what you think about this booking. The North American title is not prestigious, and having a guy like Leon Ruff go over Gargano to tell a story doesn't bother me at all. Does it bother you, Two Beer Zach?
I'll tell you why it does, and it's just the way they did it.
The Gargano mark speaks.
No, it's not even that. Like,
I'm fucking with you.
If you want to have a guy like a low level guy, and you want to make a star in one night, you can have them beat Johnny Gargano for that belt. Absolutely, like that's actually pretty awesome. Like that works really well. But he beats him. He goes up. The guy who should actually still have that belt, Damian Priest, puts it around his waist, and then it falls to the floor and trips the guy up whenever he tries to go away. Like, the guy's a comedy act. Like, he's not a star now. And then we get in the back, and Damian Priest gives him his keys and has him run away, right? Like, dude, like Johnny Gargano is some kind of, like, monster or something. I mean, like, Leon Ruff's, like, a smaller guy, but Johnny Gargano is, too. Like, it's not like, it's like Lars Sullivan or Braun Strowman or something where you got to, like, make sure the guy doesn't break you in half. Like, you just have it. Now you have this guy who has this belt, and he just looks like a total comedy punk. Like, I just don't like the way they did it. You could have had, and, maybe I'm biased, right? Kurt Stallion could have come in, like, off 205 Live, could have spun the wheel. Kurt Stallion, boom, wins the belt. Makes the guy a star, right? And then...
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be the way that it was.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying the title's super prestigious, but it is their number 2 belt. Like,
they're not trying to make a star out of Leon Ruff, though. They're trying.
That's the problem. They could have. But they're not trying.
Well, there's. Okay, I mean, I guess that's fair. What do you think, Jason?
You know me, I'm all about making new stars. This was. Full disclosure, I knew what had happened before I watched it this morning.
Because Leon Ruff's your cousin?
Yeah, because we're all cousins and we all know each other. I knew what happened when
He should have another F&B burgers.
he's the one that's meeting me down there. About to say he's got the actual gift cards. See, you got me fucked up. This is what I was going to say. The problem with the Leon Ruff thing is I'm all about making new stars. I'm totally for it. I just don't like the way they went about it here. He could have easily lost this match and just pushed Johnny to the limit and then have Gargano go over. If you're going to have Leon Ruff win, I just rather just keep the distraction out of it. Just have him, pull out a surprise victory out of the bag. For me, once I saw Damian Priest, that was kind of a tip-off of where we were going to go, even though it wasn't too much of a distraction. I don't know. I wasn't really feeling the execution. I'm with Two Beer on this one. I don't necessarily, it doesn't hurt Gargano because, it's Johnny Gargano. He can't, this is not going to knock him down.
He's Teflon on NXT at least.
On NXT, he's totally Teflon. It just, I have a problem with the execution of it. It just feels, especially at the end where, like Two Beer said, when Ruff had the belt around his waist and it fell down, that's kind of main roster-ish to me, and that's where I was just kind of like, okay, see, now I'm getting a little pissed off about it. Like I said, I don't mind Leon Ruff winning the title. It's just I'd rather it just be done in a way that's not too comedy-ish.
I didn't even see that part where it fell down. Like, I guess I was flipping back and forth. It's a nice moment for a guy like Leon Ruff.
No question.
It's a fun moment. It was a fun surprise when he went over. I was surprised because I wasn't necessarily into the AEW curtain jerker last night, which was Sydal and Cage. So I was watching Gargano, who's my guy. Also, I'm a Gargano mark. Also, I think the Gargano heel character is fun. He's doing as much as he can with it. Until they eventually, him and Ciampa to me are like Zayn and Owens. They're always gonna circle back to each other. It just didn't bother me that much. They could have made another guy, but that's not the story they're trying to tell. They still want to go with Damian Priest versus Johnny Gargano, and Leon Ruff at least just gives him a little bit of rub in case he wants to do something. In case they want to do something with him a little bit later.
That's not going to happen.
It's not like he's Tucker. We can
okay, good point.
We can go on to Atlas versus Escobar. A decent match except for a couple Atlas botches. Escobar, they really haven't let him cook yet.
I don't know. Well, I guess I'll speak for myself. I haven't watched 205 since the pandemic, so I can't really necessarily talk about what he does outside of NXT because realistically, that's the show you probably want to watch to kind of get a better grip on what Escobar can do. I don't think they really have a vested interest in this division itself. It's there to be had, but realistically, I just don't really feel.
Escobar gets a lot of TV time.
Well, he's the champion. He should, but other guys that are coming
so do his
up,
boys, though, Zema Ion and Raul Mendoza.
Okay, but that's by default
or whatever Zema.
Walking Wild now.
Yes.
But it's a whole division that's linked to NXT. So I'm waiting to see more cruiserweight matches on NXT. At this point, I feel like I have to watch 205 to see those matches to then set up NXT and all this other nonsense. It shouldn't have to be that hard.
I'm here to tell you, and Zach and I have talked about this. This is your intervention. You don't have to watch 205 live to understand NXT. You don't.
For this aspect, I believe I do.
Zach, any thoughts?
Nothing like too strong. I think both these guys are mega talented, and I think they're both kind of being underserved. Even though, the goddamn it, what is his name? I'm just blanking.
Jake Atlas,
champion.
Oh,
yeah, Escobar. Yes. How did I forget? He gets a.
I wonder why.
Decent amount of TV time.
Oh shit!
It's not like a phenomenal story or anything, but I don't know. I just feel like he's underserved. He's got a little posse, and but I think he's got some like star presence. And
Agreed.
I feel like maybe getting him away from that cruiserweight thing would actually be good and putting him in a different position.
I would say I would put money on Escobar holding the NXT heavyweight belt someday.
That's fair because he reminds me of Jesus Christ, what's his face?
No, I haven't watched
Andrade. Yeah.
I haven't watched all his shit, but everything that you read is that he's one of the best technical wrestlers in the world, and
Lucha Underground is a great place to find.
That's what I'm saying. They've never really let him cook,
right?
Like give him.
That's what I'm saying. 15. I mean, like Swerve would have been a great match, but now I feel like I got to go to 205 to watch that match. They don't really build the cruiserweights on NXT. So if you're in the cruiserweights or if you like Kurt Stallion, friend of the show, you really have to go out of your way.
Love Kurt Stallion. Still have his handprint.
You really have to go out of your way
fuck out of me
to go see the cruiserweights. And I don't think that it should have to be that hard. I think there should be a cruiserweight match every week to kind of build that part of the brand up, so that way when you have matches like Atlas versus Escobar, it's not like, oh wait, this is a cruiserweight match, oh wait, how's this happening? I think it just should
jerk
be
the curtain with a cruiserweight match every week.
No, for sure, so that way you always have them on TV at all times. Somebody,
there's a few more things I want to talk about in NXT. The first one being Raquel Gonzalez calls out Xia Li. Is it Xia Li or Xia Li?
Xia Li.
Xia.
And her guy, Boa, comes out. Raquel Gonzalez fucks him up. And then this old dude comes down, writes something on Boa's hand. It was, I didn't know what to make of it. Because,
dude, I'm glad I watched this sober because I was not sober when I watched AEW. And I was having a hard enough time. If I would have seen that,
if I would have seen that stoned, I would have had no idea what was going on.
Well, I did, and I still don't have any idea what's going on. I'm at the point where...
Anyway, it's something to keep an eye out for.
Well, yeah, but I mean, okay, I'll just say this. Two things. Raquel Gonzalez obviously looks strong coming out of this segment. This Xia Li angle, too, is now getting to the point where it's not making any kind of sense. It's all kind of like... It's inferences. We have to make our own judgments of what's really going on, but they haven't even given us enough information or evidence to kind of figure out, oh, this is what's happening. Oh, that's what's happening. It's so nonsensical. It's reminding me of the main roster, and that to me is a huge problem.
Well, NXT, there's no doubt that NXT has, for lack of a better term, fallen from grace. I mean, it's not
the same that it was a year ago.
And that might be because we watch it every week.
We watched it every week.
We used to watch it every week.
Yeah. I didn't watch the week-to-week show every week.
No, I'm sorry. Before we went to the Wednesday Night Wars, I watched it every week, and it's totally different.
It was great.
Yes, I am. And that being said, I can honestly say that
Stop
me...
answering the drops.
I will do what I want.
Pretend they're not there.
I'm a grown-ass man. That said, I will do what I want. I don't like the fact that they're doing it this way. It could easily be streamlined to where it all kind of makes sense. And that's my biggest problem with it. It's the disconnect.
It's just easy.
Go ahead.
To see that when they went from 4 to 6 weeks of booking because they would shoot 4 to 6 weeks at a time to week, and now they're
reactionary. It's reactionary. Okay, like for next week we got EO and Rhea Ripley. Sorry, I'm gonna jump in front of you for 30 seconds. So, that's not a reactionary to what's happening on the other side. We could have easily built this thing up to be arguably one of the biggest women matches in NXT history. And now we're going to throw it out there for next week.
Well, of course, because they're doing 2 hours every week now instead of 1 hour on the network. They're doing 2 hours. Of course,
there's a certain thing that I like to call NXT TakeOver that probably would have been a better stage for this match.
They used to do 4 a year, though, and now they're doing 2 hours every week.
You can still do 4 a year.
They're doing 104 hours of television every week.
Hey, you can
of
still.
Course it's going to be different.
You can still do it the right way.
104 people in that performance center, too. Like, even if one of them was on the show every single time, like, they've got plenty of people. It's not a depth issue.
I'm not saying it's a depth issue, but they are trying to get viewers. I mean, they are on USA. They did go to USA to go against AEW. Of course they did. But don't you think that NXT is bringing in more money now than they ever did on the network?
Oh, I mean,
it has to be.
Well, yeah, but
they're bringing in probably 50 times more money.
Yes.
Okay, but then you're talking about it from the business point of view. I'm looking at it as the mark point of view. I don't have WWE stock, so that doesn't interest me in the slightest.
From a mark's point of view, I agree. I wish that AEW was on its own on Wednesdays and NXT was still doing its thing, and NXT had 4 spectacular takeovers per year. Of course, that's what I wish was happening. Because, like we're going to talk about later, and the one that we're going to talk about later is one of the better ones, if not the best ones. Spoiler alert for this guy's opinion. But anyway, we're off track here. Tony Storm versus Candice LeRae was good. LeRae goes over.
Indy Hartwell
reveals herself to be the chick in the Scream mask.
Tony got 1 week.
Yeah, right. Well,
Tony should be on the main roster. She's so good,
dude. But I mean, this would happen on the main roster, though. That's what I'm saying. I mean, this is a precursor of what could happen.
Money for doing jobs. You know, they should get paid for doing jobs.
I guess.
I mean, they did the same thing to Ember Moon. Ember Moon lost last week. I went on the podcast.
Yeah.
About that. But like, dude, I was pissed. Like, you give these girls 1 week. Both of them are like superstars to this audience, and you're just beating them in the middle of the ring.
You know what?
The hell, man?
Thank you for bringing that up that you weren't here last week, Zach, because I forgot to read off the AEW Dynamite predictions. Jason and I were tied.
What?
6 apiece.
Oh, my God. I must have really been drunk last week. Hell, I didn't even drink.
I won every prediction.
No, you didn't. We had Joey pick for you.
Joey picked for you, and Joey... There were 9 picks. Joey only got 3.
God damn it, Joey.
Which is almost impossible. Joey and I...
Yeah, I was about to say, blame him for one of these picks because apparently Bill Jedi mind tricked Joey into picking
Joey and I
Kingston.
got worked. We both picked Kingston.
I didn't even have to do anything.
I don't even know what happened. I can't even I think I even said on the podcast,
Yeah.
I go, why did I pick Kingston?
Yeah,
I was
you
like,
did.
I just totally got worked by that incredible promo last night because it was such a great promo.
It was. No, it
So
really was.
You actually picked him in earnest. You didn't pick him just because the other guys picked Moxley.
No, that doesn't.
Me and Joey both picked Kingston.
They picked first that week, and I wasn't even gonna fuck with them. But then they already picked Kingston at that point, and it was just kind of like, well,
we got ourselves.
where's the fun in that?
We worked ourselves into a shoot about how good Eddie Kingston's promo was, and I mean, it was a great
Pay the
promo.
price.
It was a great promo.
All I have to say about that is that's Comedy Central, dog.
Yeah, Jason's spitting his beer out.
No, I kept it. No, we're good.
Dexter Lumis versus Timothy Thatcher. Timothy Thatcher goes on. Cameron Grimes goes in and attacks Lumis. Let me go on the record here and say that I loved every single bit of this.
God, why am I the old guy in the room?
I love Timothy Thatcher. I love Dexter Lumis. And I love Cameron Grimes coming in to fuck with them both. Zach, tell me I'm wrong.
You're not wrong. This is the best Dexter Lumis I've ever seen.
Fuck yes.
Yeah.
Jason's so mad at us. It's been you guys against me all podcast, and now it's me and Zach against you.
That's fine. Bring it on. Bring it on. Dude, give me a break, man. Dexter Lumis is the worst fucking character ever.
Hey, let's hear Zach out.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just loved that it didn't have any of that like weird gymnastics. Like if you're a serial killer, maybe you draw some characters. Maybe that's how you get your serial kills. Is like you draw somebody at Six Flags and then you follow them home and you murder them. I don't know, but like you probably don't do any flip dives before you murder them. That's the weird thing about his characters. I just liked that they went in and had a wrestling match.
Thatcher's cool though.
I like Thatcher.
Oh, Thatcher's great.
I like Thatcher. Okay, I'm kind of a little upset that Finn Balor, which apparently is going to come back next week. I mean, damn, how long has this Joker been out? I'm a little upset that they put him against Finn so quickly, but ultimately, Timothy Thatcher has talent. MLW, I remember seeing him there, and now he's in NXT. This is the guy that should be your North American champion versus Leon Ruff.
Oh, you're not going to get an argument from me about that. Okay, so finally we get the Kings of NXT come out. Zach, you weren't here last week. Jason and I were singing Pat McAfee's praises. He cut a destructive promo last week. He almost equaled it this week. We talked about how Eddie Kingston might be the best on the stick. I'm not ready to say that Pat McAfee might be the best promo, but Pat McAfee is an incredible promo, and I do not want to like this guy at all.
At all.
In fact,
that's exactly how I feel. I do not want to like him, and he's awesome. Like, he comes out there saying they're the best four-man stable in the history of wrestling.
Dude, I literally was like, my head was going to explode because I'm like, Four Horsemen? But that's why he's so good. Because once he said that statement, it literally, like, my head was getting ready to explode.
But you talk
quickly
about making it look easy. He makes it look
easy.
For a guy that
no, he does have his own talk show, so, I mean, there's something to that. I mean, it's not like he just... Go ahead.
I bet Maury Povich couldn't cut a promo.
Okay,
he's got his own fucking talk show.
That's what I was going to say.
Ricky Lake probably sucks on the stick. That sounded weird.
You got to save that, man.
That's good. That needs to be like a drop for 2020.
So then Birch and Oni Lorcan go out. They defeat Breezango. Drake Maverick comes in, tries to cause some havoc. It looks like we're setting up for a War Games in between Undisputed Era and the Kings of NXT. I don't know where Killian Dane and Drake Maverick fit into it. Zach, give me your 2 weeks worth of what do you think about Pat McAfee?
Oh, I mean, this guy, it's like I would say rags to riches, like, but he went like just from riches to more riches because he's like a superstar in another sport. But he's the best transplant from one sport to another as far as like natural like wrestling ability that I've seen in an incredibly long time. And just like coming in kind of as a star, like the guy's a Pro Bowler. Doesn't mean anything to me, but I know it means a lot to
he's a punter, it doesn't mean shit.
That's funny. But I mean, the guy is just an absolute natural, and bravo to him for making me come around and like him. Like you said, I did not want to like him at all, and now I look forward to seeing him every week. And he makes me believe what he says. Like, besides like the hyperbole of the best four-man group, like that's obviously not true, at least yet. He says this is the best show to be watching because we are on it right now.
Agreed. There you go.
Wrong.
You know, of course it's hyperbole to say you're the best four-man group ever, but that's what that's what a heel should say.
I'm not saying all, yeah. And you're also getting heat because all those people that watch NXT, they're 50 plus. They grew up with the Four Horsemen.
Hey man,
mad at you.
Hey man, I'm sitting right here, dog. I ain't 50 yet. Chill out.
Not yet.
I grew up with
Fuck
the
you.
Too, but mine
was like your birthday's
mine
first.
was like the Chris Benoit, Mongo McMichael.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
I was pretty young whenever Sting and Luger were in there. I remember it, but I was pretty young.
I mean, we are getting some serious promo work in the last year that's really been lacking for a while, and I'm talking about Ambrose. I'm talking about Pac, Eddie Kingston, fucking Pat McAfee. I mean, and it's weird to say Pat McAfee in that same sentence, but
no,
he's doing serious work. And so is Eddie Kingston, and neither of these guys were even on our radar until about 2 months ago or whenever Pat McAfee had that match.
Pat McAfee is the more of the guy that was literally off the radar.
Also,
then all of a sudden now he's on it.
I also want to say that Taz is an incredible promo.
Oh, yeah.
I also want to say that I just found out this week that Taz is Italian and not half black, which
why would you think
blew
he's
me
half
away.
black?
Why not both?
Well, I think there's reasons why not both, but there's only so much time on this pod.
What am I supposed to say?
Go watch Jungle Fever. Then you'll figure yourself out.
I'm short-circuiting. Oh, should I say this joke? Should I not?
Do it.
Is this offensive? No, I've been watching Fargo where they say that the Italians call the blacks moulignons all the time, and I don't know. Is that offensive to a black person?
Yeah, I would probably say that's offensive.
But, I mean, Chris, they say it on TV all the time, though. Is it offensive?
If I'm not mistaken.
Is it offensive to you?
Me, no. That's what I'm going to say. The N-word is the word that I look for. Apparently.
What if you use a hard R on Moulignaner?
Yeah, it's game time now. Now I got to take this sweatshirt off. You're going to get you some of these hands. I think it's supposed to be like eggplant, is what it basically translates to. So
I like eggplant.
I don't know. Judge for yourself. Like I said, for me, it doesn't make any
difference.
difference.
And you're a cantaloupe.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so sorry if anybody's offended. All of our new listeners on YouTube.
Right.
They're like, who the fuck is this dude saying bouillon?
Not say 650 have gone down to 50.
All right, so I don't know what you guys want to say about our AEW Dynamite last night.
So I was pretty baked. I got a new cartridge from the dispensary up here, and
how long did you have to wait?
I just order online, pick it up.
Nice.
I know it's 2020. It's awesome.
You guys keep talking.
The funny thing is, so I got it and it just hit different, right? So I started taking notes because I didn't want to publicly tweet all this stuff, and it's probably a good thing because only about half of it makes any sense. I made handwritten notes, and so starting off, I'll just read off some of my things that I wrote. First of all, I was really impressed that Tony Schiavone put over the Irish whip so hard during the Cage versus Seinfeld.
Gee, I wonder why.
Just little things. I'm just oh man, I'm you know what? He's really selling that Irish whip, and he just put it over so hard.
Oh yeah, you were
little
baked.
Things. Oh yeah, and then here I am sitting on my couch, I'm mega overweight. I'm a couple beers in, and I'm super high, and I'm thinking you know what? Maybe Matt Sydal could just tone it back a little on the standing Phoenix splash. He does the standing Phoenix splash, and I'm that's a little too much, Matt.
Don't be hating.
I know. I could never pull that off. And then I was super excited that Brian Cage caught him in midair.
Yeah. That, on the for the drill call finish, I thought that was absolutely amazing.
Oh yeah, and then Ricky Starks. This is one of my favorite parts of the entire show, and I don't know if I would have noticed it if I wasn't so focused on what I was watching because of my
good word.
Toxicity level. But Ricky Starks does his promo, and then he says hit it to hit the music, and everything in the studio is entirely silent. In the studio, they don't play
anything. I'm motherfucker. Yeah, because I was waiting for his theme music to play because he always does the air guitar Kyle O'Reilly or whatever when he comes out for his matches. So he was hit it, and he starts to walk away. I'm hit it? Anybody? Yeah. Brian Cage's music? No? Anybody? Okay. So yeah, it wasn't just you. Trust me, I was focused as you were as well, and that was one of those things where it kind of just really stood out because it totally left Ricky Starks hanging. And as a Ricky Starks kind of guy, I don't want to see my boys hanging by any stretch of imagination.
Yeah. I was like, am I crazy?
No, you ain't crazy.
So then I think we had a commercial break, so that was the first commercial break. Also, at this time, I felt like the show had been going on for an hour, and then I just realized it was the first commercial break.
Right.
That tells you how
focused
it was. Yes, focused. Then Cody Rhodes' entrance, probably the most overwrought, overdone entrance in all of professional wrestling. I love it.
I was getting ready to say, don't even fart. I love it.
He did spend a lot of time around Randy Orton and Triple H.
Dude, I love it so much. Yeah, it's
fair.
It's
that's fair.
It's like a Triple H intro, but he just does it every show. And I'm sure Tony Khan's doing the minutes and he's booking out the show and all right, well, here we got to give 3 minutes to Cody's intro.
3? I was going to say 5, motherfucker.
But
you gotta get somewhere in between the Undertaker and Darby Allin riding his dumbass skateboard down there. Somewhere in between is where you find it.
God, you ain't
We'll
shit.
get to Darby. But yeah, so Cody comes out, tries to cut a promo on MJF, and which is like super hot, right? As soon as he said, like, I've got this one loss on my record, I knew right where he was going. I'm like, I was like, we're getting right back to Cody MJF. This is like the hottest feud in wrestling, right? Like, this is the thing that I'm like most invested in as soon as he says it. And then this woman interrupts him. I have no idea who this girl was. I think she said her name was Jade Cargill. She looks great, like definite like star presence. Her promo was like seemed like a little scripted, and I'm just like, here are my notes. I was like, what is happening with this woman and Cody? Jade Cargill is her name. Lame intro from Cody and MJF, which is maybe the hottest storyline in the company. But then she made fun of his dick, so I popped. And I was like, she sounds mega scripted is all. And then while I'm writing it, I'm like, she said Shaq. Like, all of a sudden. Like,
who was backstage at Full Gear, right?
Apparently, yeah.
And then Brandy Rhodes come out and cuts the promo of her life, right? Like, just goes off on this girl. Like, it was a lot of fun.
Go ahead, because I want to speak on that.
You know what? I would just
because I want to hear your perspective on it first.
Well, I would just like to apologize to any of our listeners who heard what I said about using the Italian term for black person earlier. That being said, I don't understand what Brandy Rhodes is doing here. Brandy Rhodes has gone through 4 different characters in the last 12 months. I thought this segment sucked. I fucking hated it. If you're going to have Cody out there, it's a really strange way to introduce a character that nobody's ever seen before. Have her cut the most tough enough, terrible ass promo that I'm not even going to look at you, Jason, because you're nodding and I don't want to fucking play to you. I don't want you to cut this fucking tough enough promo and then walk up and say Shaq and then have to have the announcer say it. And then Brandy Rhodes come out and scream it. Like, Brandy Rhodes has never acted like that. So Brandy Rhodes is only acting like this because there's another black chick in front of her. I thought the whole thing was... I'm sorry. I thought it was embarrassing. I thought it was a terrible segment.
I got to piggyback on that and agree. When this Jade chick came out, my knee-jerk reaction was she's the Black Camille from NWA. So that, to me, was a good start. And then she spoke, and then it started to go downhill. You can kind of see Cody, playing along with it, which is what he's supposed to do. But it didn't do anything for me until she said Shaq. And then when she said Shaq, I'm like, okay, so what the fuck? So now we're going to do Shaq versus Cody? And I get it. It goes back to when when Cody left to go do that TV show or whatever. It's more exposure. But that's WWE type shit. I had this argument online.
It's got a real Karl Malone WCW
tied to it. I had this argument.
I tell you what, that shit did ratings, though, and that's all that matters.
Okay.
I'm not defending the segment, but like the idea of Shaq, like that, it's just like
it'll do ratings,
right?
No question about it. No question about it.
The segment did suck. Like, it was amateurish, right?
At best.
Well, that chick really sucked. I mean, Brandy Rhodes, if that would have been her character the entire time, I would have been fine with it. But like, for her to completely switch characters from like cult leader to whatever that was supposed to be.
I'm not even worried about that. To me, and this is just me as the person of color in the room, it just played to the usual stereotype of, okay, here's the angry black woman. And now you're going to roll your head. You're going to talk this crazy shit. Brandy don't talk like that. Okay, Brandy is actually well-spoken. But now, in this scenario, she goes to be the quote-unquote black woman. It just rubbed me the wrong way. I get it. If you want to go into kayfabe style, this is what you're supposed to do. You're pissed off because some woman is coming out here running down your husband. I get it. The optics looked really bad, and to the point where it wasn't the Brandy Rhodes that you presented to us on multiple different occasions, whether it was the cult leader
Jason,
other things along the lines.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that Brandy Rhodes, her character before the other night, before Wednesday night, do you think that her character could have used the word facetious? Okay. All right. Zach, have you ever heard Jason? He's making a face. Have you ever
I
heard
want to come over there right now and fuck you up.
No, it's not me. It's not me.
That's my story, goddammit.
Have you ever heard Jason's facetious story? Do you want to tell it?
I have. That's why I laughed.
We can cut this out right now.
No. We
if
can
you
tell
don't want to tell it.
Look, please. Long story short,
What do you want to hit me for, dude?
Because you know how I feel about that story. It pisses me off.
I'm getting ready to hit the he's heating up thing.
No, it's about to, well, give me a second. So, friends of ours, let's try this again. This was many, many moons ago. Me and like 6 or 7 friends of mine were having some drinks. We're going to a local bar, Harry's, if those who are familiar with the St. Louis area.
I've been there.
Okay.
Several times.
Spent
a week there one night.
I can see why. So
I might not have done cocaine in their bathroom.
Yeah. That's par for the course. Some friends of mine were getting off work. We're having some drinks. We're going to Harry's for the 3:00 usual last call for St. Louis, Missouri. And I came in and I was at the bar and I'm getting ready to start ordering the drinks. And me and my friend Ben were talking, and I used the word facetious. I can't remember how I said it in the sentence. And there was a woman, Caucasian, to my left, and casually looks over to me and was like, I didn't know the black people knew the word facetious. So I kind of looked.
heating up.
So I kind of looked at her, and I'm like, okay, so I'm, on a scale of, kind of focused to really, really focused, I was leaning towards the really, really focused portion of our program. So it caught me off guard because I'm like, okay, is this happening? I mean, I'm pissed, but how pissed should I get is the ultimate question. So now a friend of mine hears this, Sherry, God bless you, Sherry. So she's all kind of
Sherry.
Okay, this is the worst person in the world to hear this shit. Sherry. I mean, the last person in the world that needs to be hearing this.
She had red hair.
Yeah. So if you know any redheads, you can kind of see where this story is getting ready to go. She fucking flips
Lots
the fuck
of stereotypes
out.
running around this.
Right? She flips the fuck out. I'm like, okay, Sherry, come on now. We just got here. I mean, literally, we just got here. I didn't even have a drink in my hand before this nonsense happened. I'm like, we just got here. Let's not blow up my boy's spot. Everybody chill the fuck out. If I'm not mad, nobody else should be mad, okay? Don't get me wrong. I'm fucking pissed. I'm just not trying to go to jail at 2 a.m. on a Wednesday night trying to get some drinks before we go home, okay? That, to me, is the biggest problem with the Brandy scenario. It makes her look typically black, and that's not necessarily a good look for Cody Rhodes' wife.
Yeah, not only that, but I thought the Jade Cargill woman was she was not ready to be out there.
No.
Either that or she just got really fucking nervous.
She had good star presence, like she carried herself well, but she didn't speak very well.
Oh, she's hot.
Her cadence. Yeah, she's
without
hot.
question.
Also, she seemed very important, whether through self-importance or whatever. And I'm like, she came out, and I'm like, I should know who this is, even though I shouldn't or I didn't.
Yeah, because literally, she has that presence that makes her stand out. But A, I didn't know who she was, and then B, when she started to talk, you can kind of see where it was starting to go south. And I was waiting for somebody to come out.
C, I thought it was Brandy Rhodes.
God, I want to fuck you up right now. Come get this motherfucker. That's what they got.
He's going to kill me.
I definitely recognized, like, Brandy was definitely, was definitely leaning into the stereotype, right?
Right. And now I don't.
At the same time, I also just thought it was very entertaining, right? And I thought Brandy, like, that's what she wanted to do, right? Nobody's making her do that. Like, Brandy is a powerful woman in pro wrestling, right? Like, she has a lot of power.
Of course.
It's super cool to have, like, a female person of color in that position, not just because she's Cody Rhodes' wife, right? Because she's talented and she's smart.
Now,
and that's what she chose to do. And it's way better than the other stuff that she's, like, chosen to do. And she does flip flop a lot between heel and face, and it's just kind of.
It's not even flip flopping a lot between heel and face. She's gone through like 4 different characters in the last year. It's just it hasn't been very consistent with Brandy Rhodes.
I agree with that. Totally.
They need to find a character. The thing is, when I was watching that segment, I'm watching Cody, and that Jade Cargill gal is struggling, and I'm watching him, and he's trying to sell it like, oh, who the fuck are you? But you can tell he's also kind of like trying to encourage her on, like, hey, you're doing great. And that's not what you want to see if you're the audience. You don't want to see. I mean, anyway, we spent a lot of time on this. I want to hear Jason tell another story like that about when he was discriminated against.
We got 3 hours.
Maybe next time you can use the word eggplant.
Hey, you're cantaloupe. We had the Butcher and the Blade against Natural Nightmares. That was a pretty good match. I liked it. Inner Circle inducted MJF. Sam Guevara did not show up.
No, he's late. He was late. CPT.
Didn't get the email.
We had
the second email.
Yeah, right.
Didn't get the second email.
Spears versus Sky.
A little disappointing.
Could have been a lot better.
Yeah.
You know why it could have been a lot better? Because there weren't 2 Scorpio Skies. Scorpio Sky is so good, and Sean Spears is such a fucking hack. Hack.
Wow. Totally disagree.
Dude, I really liked the finish because they were able to protect like Scorpio Sky and got Sean Spears over as a heel, and also protect the entire AEW referee system, because Sean Spears had that glove and they kept checking it over and over, and then Tully slipped him the weight, and then he did it, and then he slipped it into his pants, and so the referee realized that this guy's out cold, and he checked the glove again and it was gone, and then he handed it off to Tully, and they did all that on camera. So like, I just thought it like protected everybody really well, and I was fine with it, even though Scorpio Sky definitely deserves more opportunities than Sean Spears. I feel like he's a more marketable person. This is like an ongoing thing, and
round 2 will happen soon.
I mean, I think Scorpio Sky's a shitty name. I wish his name was Sean Spears, to be honest. I think that Sean Spears is not.
He'd be like a porn actor.
I was going to say, I don't think the Scorpio Sky is a bad name.
What do you prefer, like Sagittarius Shadow?
Well, we don't know.
That's pretty
good. Stop.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Stop. Don't give credence to that. Stop.
Okay, Eddie Kingston comes. We have Ty Conti and Red Velvet. The less said about it, the better. Well, yeah, I know. She's hot. I know. I get it. Am I skipping too fast past this stuff? Do you guys want to talk about this stuff?
Well, I'll just say this.
I'm trying to get to that takeover do-over.
Ty Conte is basically leaning towards Dark Order. That was the whole thing with that. Red Velvet is, I guess, loosely affiliated with the Nightmare family, so it kind of makes sense. The match was fine.
I will say that I really love the bunkhouse match, and that's like the last thing. Besides Kenny Omega and his promo, and whenever they come out and he can't even be bothered because he's on the phone, and he's like, oh yeah, goodbye, good night, all that stuff, thank you, enjoy Dynamite.
Right.
Oh my God, that popped me. But
no, because
here's a quick fan theory, and this is just me being tinfoil hat guy. We're going to get that match, not in the next pay-per-view, but we're going to get December 2nd on Dynamite, right? My tinfoil hat is that Kenny takes the belt, which I thought he was going to do anyway. Moxley quarantines and goes to Japan. I have not heard this on any dirt sheets. This is I actually texted the dirt sheets today.
That tinfoil must be double thick.
I know. I texted Brian Alvarez of Wrestling Observer today, and I was like, hey, do you think this could happen? I'm still waiting on a response.
You better keep waiting. Actually, all bullshit aside, it kind of makes a little sense. I mean, at some point, even if Moxley's not going to be IWGP US champion, he's probably going to have to defend it. And at that scenario, he's probably going to have to cough it up. It kind of makes sense.
Cough it up to who?
At this point, it'll be Kenta.
Kenta at the Tokyo Dome.
Well, I'd be down with that.
I would have preferred
December 2nd is enough time between that and January 4 or 5 for him to fly over, quarantine, and wrestle.
Something I'll say about AEW Dynamite and NXT on Wednesday night is that both of them have a very good, usually week to week, they have a very good sense of what's important, to where the last 25 minutes is always pretty much one segment. Whether it's a promo into a match or something, I mean, it's usually a promo into a match, or like a vignette into a match. This week on both were great. You had Eddie Kingston cut a promo on his guys, and then Phoenix and Penta came out and had a banger. And these guys,
Shocker, I know.
These guys are brothers in real life, right? Or is that kayfabe?
I think they are brothers in real life.
They had a spectacular match with a bunch of pile drivers on the apron. I mean, really rough looking stuff. And Pat McAfee came out with Kings of NXT, and then you had Burch and Oney versus Breezango, which we already talked about. But you also had Pac come out at the end and get Eddie Kingston's. You get Eddie Kingston's face, and it looks like we're getting a Pac Eddie Kingston feud. Which I gotta say, guys, the potential for mic work on that feud is through the effing roof. What do you think about that, Jason?
If you'd have asked me a year ago, 2 years ago, if Neville would have been someone I wanted to hear on the mic, I'd have laughed at you in your face. The vignette they had the week before with him in isolation and then him coming out live this week has gotten me way more excited about his return than I have been about anybody pretty much this year. I guess my problem is, are we putting Pac as the face? Are we fighting over leadership of the family?
No.
The way it kind of set up, it just felt like, I'm coming back to take back, Death Triangle, so to speak, which I don't see it happening anymore because you had Penta basically kicking Rey Fenix out of the ring like, some old news trash by the end of the match, and then that's when Pac came out. I don't mind the Pac Eddie Kingston match when it will happen eventually. I just think that where we go from there, to me, is the question. I just don't know if this is. I don't want Pac to be a face. I guess that's my biggest point with this. I want him to be tweener to heelish at best. This is presenting himself kind of as a face, and I don't necessarily want to see that.
Two Beer, what do you think?
Eddie Kingston will be a super baby face sometime because we saw it at the end of this pay-per-view where, you have this guy who everybody is behind because of his background, and he just, is the tough bastard, right? And he's just not going to quit, but he doesn't see any way out, so he has to quit. He had to work hard to make himself a heel again when he came out, right? And soon enough, I don't see any redemption for Pac. Pac's always going to be the bastard, even though he has a babyface moveset. But Eddie Kingston's going to be a top babyface, and maybe this is when they turn him. We'll see.
That's two, hot takes from Two Beer in 5-10 minutes.
I like that one, though. I think he's right there.
That Kingston's going to be a face?
Let's talk about him like he's not in the room. Because he's not in the room.
Right?
I just realized I wasn't in the room last week when we got those 600 YouTube views.
Trust me, neither did I.
Oh, that was all Tinder Mahal. He was bringing all his fans.
I was going to say everybody from Tinder came over and watched. I guess my only problem with that is that who's going to be the catalyst? Who is that much of a heel? Who has that much heat that can flip Kingston from heel to being face?
Pac.
Shit, I feel like Moxley could have done it even as a face. I feel like Moxley could have flipped him face.
I feel like as long as I've known Moxley, and I've probably said this on this podcast, I feel like as long as I've known who the fuck John Moxley is, even when he was Dean Ambrose, he's been a face way too much. He's such a fucking natural heel, and he never gets to be a heel.
Oh, okay. I don't necessarily say I disagree with that, but I don't think that if Moxley did it, then we have a WrestleMania 13 kind of scenario where we got a double turn going.
Right.
I don't necessarily think that you don't have Kenny Omega, and this is all fantasy booking from this point on. I don't think you have Kenny Omega as the queener, a heelish queener, or tweener queener, or whatever you want to call it, going against a tweener, heelish John Moxley. You know what I'm saying? The match itself, I think, would be great. I just don't think that the storyline kind of makes sense. The way they're going about it at this point kind of makes more sense. We waited a year for Moxley and Omega to come back around, and now we're here. I'm okay with it.
Dude, and they straight up said we have a 0-0 record, right? Like, we had that
Good
match,
point.
but it was
Great
insane.
point. Great point. I love the fact that, and this is why I think I love Kenny Omega and the fact that heels have this certain mentality. Kenny Omega is not even putting that lights out match on the radar. That match never happened. We're 0-0. Even though in reality, Moxley won that match. We all watched it. That was a year ago at Full Gear. Kenny Omega is basically telling you that match never happened. It wasn't a real match. It's not a regular match. Now we're going to have a regular match on December 2, and now we're going to see what's going to happen. Great heel mentality.
And Moxley is still the best champion in all of wrestling. Like, this guy has had this belt for, almost a year. This is one of the greatest title reigns I've ever seen. Like, this guy comes off like such a star, such a champion. Every promo is a spoiler. He told Eddie Kingston the week before, protect your neck. How did he win? He had him in like a choke. Like, dude, like, he did this with
Brian
Jake
Cage.
Hager. He said, I'm gonna pull your goddamn arm off your body. That's how he won. Like, every promo is a spoiler. This guy comes across as real. He comes across as somebody that you may or may not want to invite into your home, right? Just like a little bit of a.
If you do, make sure you got some alcohol.
Character.
I mean,
and
you're exactly
he's
right.
great.
Yes, this is one of the greatest title runs that we've seen. He defends it all the time. He defends it against
everybody,
all comers.
Yeah.
I mean, this is until Otis cashes in his Money in the Bank. Oh, wait. He got to take it from him.
I say he ain't got it no more. Just
that's going to do it for our 3 count.
1, 2, 3.
All right, Zach. So you did get a chance to watch NXT TakeOver Chicago 2, right?
It was Chicago 1.
Or Chicago 1, yes. Sorry.
Yeah, and I'm flabbergasted that we didn't go. The only match that I was not able to rewatch was the first match because I couldn't find it online, and I still refuse to give WWE any money. So I cannot comment on the Roderick Strong Eric Young match outside of memory, of which I have none. So,
well, I've watched it a few times over the past few weeks because I've been trying to get myself ready for the podcast because that's how devoted I am to the podcast. But I'll say that Roderick Strong versus Eric Young is actually really, really, really good. And I would give it a 3.0. We're waiting for Jason to come back down. I think he's upstairs taking a piss. Zach, anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to talk about here on the podcast while Jason's gone? I mean, we're still recording.
Is he taking a piss or taking the piss? Because I feel like Zack Sabre Jr. is always accusing people of taking the piss. And I'll be goddamned if I sometimes don't wish that I was British, not just because I could be so imperialistic and jingoistic, but I could have such great one-liners like taking the piss. So good.
Yeah, that is a good one. You're not imperialistic?
Not at all, no.
You don't think so?
No, I'm also not British, unfortunately. I'd probably be like way deeper in vagina.
Jason's back.
What the fuck did I just walk into?
We were just bullshitting around.
Okay.
Just, on the podcast.
It's like, I'm gone 2 minutes. All of a
Jason.
sudden.
Back on, let me take it back to my loft and fuck the doggy style for a little
Zach
bit.
has given... What did you just say?
I would just like say anything in a British accent and I'd get laid if that was the point.
Well, that's true.
I was about to say, they do have an advantage over us for sure. Jason
Bell.
Yes, sir.
What kind of
That's
story?
Australian.
If you're Australian, you got to ask a question. Every time you finish a sentence? Oh, I'll do an Australian accent.
This is going to be like the most racist fucking pod we've ever had.
I have a friend who's Australian.
We're not racist.
Oh, Jason.
Yeah.
What do you have? Roderick Strong against Eric Young?
2.5. I mean, this was, to me, standard curtain jerker match. It wasn't necessarily anything that stood out for either guy. The right guy ends up going over in this scenario, but by no means I thought this was anything more than what it really truly was just something to get this thing started. I like Roddy Strong. Don't get me wrong. I liked him even before he became a part of the Undisputed Era, but it felt like it was lacking something. And I'm not sure what that something was, but Roddy Strong to me is a way better heel than he probably is as a face, and I think that's probably has a lot to do with it. But neither here nor there. 2.5 stars.
Okay, I've never seen a Roderick Strong match that lasts 10 minutes that's not 3 stars or more. That's how much I like Roderick Strong. Roderick Strong versus Eric Young. Yeah, it was the curtain jerker. And, yeah, there's a bunch of good matches coming after this. But for a pay-per-view that's this high on my list, I think this is a worthy curtain jerker. I give it 3 stars.
Okay. I mean, like I said.
What'd you give it, Zach?
I couldn't find it.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I didn't get a chance to watch it.
All right, well, let's move on to a total deuce, which is Tyler Bate versus Pete Dunne. In our first year of the podcast, I think that some of us named this the match of the year. Jason, what do you give it?
I've given it 4 stars. It's going to be hard to kind of remake the magic they did the first time, but I really think they did a really good job on trying to make this happen a second time around. Tyler Bate obviously coming in hot as the champion at the time, and to have Pete Dunne take it away from him in, I wouldn't say the manner that he did, but it was really a match where you can kind of see Tyler Bate kind of losing the grip on the title slowly but surely, where Pete Dunne has now taken the mantle from him. This is one of those matches where I thought we would see, a Tyler Bate, Pete Dunne 3, 4, 5, and then obviously for pandemic reasons and other reasons, we're not probably seeing that anytime soon. But to keep this match separate from everything else, I'll give it 4 stars. It probably should be like 3.5, maybe 3.25, but ultimately I got caught up into it just for the fact of what happened beforehand and now leading up to this match where kind of Pete Dunne evens the score on this one. I'll give it 4 stars.
Zach, I'll let you go.
That sounds so incredibly low to me. Like, I thought so much more of this match. I straight up gave it 4 3/4 and thought about giving it 5. Like, I love this match. I love that they were so equally matched. There was not any outright heel tactics from the bruiserweight. I love that these guys are so young, and like the entire Full Sail audience, or Chicago, Full Sail, but that Chicago audience, that all of these guys like were so invested in these guys, who by all means they should not have been even aware of, let alone interested in. Like we had this WWE UK tournament team at that time, but like these are like the smarkiest of the smarks, right? Like Chicago. So like they knew who these guys were, and they were so behind them from the opening bell. And I love the story of the match. It was not any like kind of heel bullshit. It was just these guys went at it, and Tyler Bate took a chance at the very end. He went all for broke, and it's the kind of thing where you would say old school high risk maneuver, right? It can make a match, and he did a high risk maneuver, and he did the tope con hero, and Pete Dunne sidestepped him, slammed him into the mat, threw him in the ring, gave him his finisher, and that was the end of it. And I just thought it was so cool. Besides all of the near falls before that and all of the fun spots, like I thought this was like technical excellence, right? Especially from a guy so young. So I just thought so highly of it.
I couldn't agree more with Zach. I wrote down these scores 2 weeks ago whenever we were getting ready to do this. I have not changed my score. I have 4 3/4. I thought about giving it a 5. It's an incredible match. It's an incredible 17-minute match. It's an incredible match if you don't even consider how young these guys are. It's a fun match that tells a story, that starts off. I love the pacing of it. I love how Tyler Bate starts trying to do some cocky shit in front of Pete Dunne, like standing on his head, and Pete Dunne just starts smacking his fucking thighs down. I love this match. I've probably watched this match 10 times. It's one of my favorite matches of all time. It's proof that you don't need to be big to tell a story. It's proof that you don't need to be big to be a great wrestler. And it's proof, if anything, it's the exception that proves the rule, that shows that MJF is an outlier, that these guys are outliers and MJF is normal, because MJF could not do a match like this. Tyler Bate was 21 when this match was filmed. 21 when this match occurred. 20-fucking-1. And then 2 years later, he does the Walter match, which is a 44-minute slobber knocker. 4.75 stars. I thought about giving it a 5. I'm completely with you, Zach. It was incredible. Next coming up, we have Asuka versus Nikki Cross versus Ruby Riott. Big fan of this match, too. I'll go first. I was a big fan of this match, too, and I gave it 3.5 stars. And the reason that I gave it an extra 0.5 is because Asuka, on her streak, pinned them both. And that's a great ending for a dominant champion. I gave it 3.5 stars. Zach, what do you have?
I had 3.25, so, super close. I think I remember liking this match more when I watched it initially, but I really love that finish where Ruby Riott is pinning Nikki Cross, and Asuka comes in with the knee and just blasts her and then pins both of them. That was the highlight of the match, but Nikki Cross got a lot of offense. So did Ruby Riott. They're both better than they seem in the main roster. Also Asuka. All three of these women are better than they seem. So I do remember this match, watching it the first time. Like you, I haven't watched it 10 times, but that Pete Dunne Tyler Bate match, that's probably the 5th time I've watched it. It's just fun to throw on every now and then. It's just so fun. But yeah, solid match, nothing crazy, but it was memorable for that finish.
Well, it's a triple threat.
Yeah, I was going to say the Bill Veggie special. Asuka Reign of Terror continues, obviously. I agree with Tubier on this one. For me, it's 3.25 stars. It's not like this was anything great. And I remember at the time where I was kind of getting a little frustrated, because now I'm like, okay, so now Asuka's beating 2 women at the same time, pinning them both at the same time. Don't get me wrong, that was probably the best part of the match. But now where do we go from here? So that to me was the one thing I took away from it then. Now I'm looking at it where man, where is this Asuka at? I would love to see Asuka come back and be more of the dominant, killer of the division versus the Asuka I see now, which is kind of the same thing, but you sprinkle in a little more comedy. But comedy is not my thing. We already know that. That's neither here nor there. At the end of the day,
I agree. You're not funny.
At the end of the day, I would just sit here and say that it is a scenario where I was probably looking for a little more, didn't get it, but it wasn't the worst match of the night. 3.25.
All right, let's move on to Bobby Roode at the time versus Hideo Itami, a.k.a. Kenta, somebody who we've already spoken about today. Jason, I'll let you go first. If this is for the belt.
This is for the title, and
it's not a belt, it's a championship.
Whatever. That's what I say. I'll call it what I want. I'll say title because I like title myself personally. Belt is not a problem. Very underwhelmed, honestly. I get where we were trying to do with it, but the match itself never really translated, at least for me, to where I thought that Kenta / Hideo Itami had much of a chance. You had some good spots, but ultimately Bobby Roode goes over. I'm getting it 3 stars. I was just not that impressed, ultimately, where the build wasn't necessarily that good. The match was okay, but it really never translated as a quote-unquote takeover kind of match. It needed something. I couldn't tell you what it was then. I damn sure can't tell you what it is now. I just wasn't very impressed with it. And this is right in Bobby Roode's reign of terror next to Asuka, where basically he was having great match time after time after time again, and then this one, to me, was the lowest part of his title reign, 3 stars.
Zach, I'll let you go next.
I just don't think Hideo Itami ever got over in NXT the way that Kenta could, right? He had a tough time adjusting stylistically. He also had a tough time with injury. It was probably the most disappointing NXT run that anybody coming from outside of NXT has ever had. As far as imagine if Shinsuke Nakamura had gotten hurt and his style didn't get over and his charisma didn't get over, right? Because Shinsuke was main eventing the Tokyo Dome, and then he went to NXT where he's wrestling in front of 300 people, Kenta, not quite that level, but Kenta was a major star. And this was a solid match. I like the psychology of it. It was working Bobby Roode's shoulder the whole time, and then eventually Kenta's ankle got hurt, so it's shoulder versus ankle, what's going to happen, and the psychology played into it. I especially loved whenever Kenta got the GTS and Bobby rolled out of the ring. As soon as I saw that, I remembered. I was like, oh man, I remember that spot. It was as soon as it happened, it was you rewatch these matches and you're like, oh, that hit different, and it was fun. So solid 4 stars. Definitely enjoyable. Understandable that they put it on before this ladder match, though.
It's funny that the way that Zach was talking, I thought that he was going to give it 3 stars just like you, but he gave it 4 stars. I think I'm focusing less on Hideo Itami / Kenta than you guys are, and I'm focusing more on Bobby Roode. As a guy who watched TNA back in 2010, 2011, when Beer Money had their crazy best out of 7 feud against the Motor City Machine Guns, I've always liked Bobby Roode a whole lot. To me,
what a great name, by the way, Beer Money. I love that.
It is really good. I never thought that tag team would be actually good at this point, honestly.
To me, this is peak Bobby Roode. I mean, Bobby Roode owns this match, and even Hideo Itami does the thing where he sets up the Glorious, and Bobby Roode, who has that kind of jumping DDT, I forget what it's called.
The Glorious DDT.
Okay. I loved this match. I'm describing it way different than Zach, even though I'm going to give it the exact same star rating. I gave it a 4 also. I just think it's peak Bobby Roode. I don't think that wrestler, as much of a professional as he is, and also you have to give the crowd a lot of credit too. The crowd adds to it. I mean, it can't just be the guys in the ring. This crowd was on fire, and this is I you know what? I'll wait to say that, but I'm not going to agree with you on that. I know where you're going with it. I'm not going to agree. I gave it 4 stars also. Coming up last, we have DIY versus the Authors of Pain in what might be the most iconic takeover. Well, it includes the most iconic takeover moment of all time, which is when Ciampa turned on Gargano at the very end. You know what, Zach? I'll let you go first. Now, listen, we're just talking about the match.
Oh, yeah. That's the biggest problem, is separating the match from the angle.
Right.
Because
the angle is 15 stars.
Yeah, the angle is peak. The angle is possibly, it's one of the greatest turns in pro wrestling history, and at least
Totally agree.
from pro wrestling, what I've seen of it.
Totally agree.
Which is not inconsiderable, right? So the match itself, totally solid. A lot of fun spots. Like these guys are both like AOP. Like never really seemed to like do it for me, but they always seem to be great foils to great tag teams, right? I don't know. Like some of my favorite tag team matches involve AOP. But I would never say AOP is like some of my favorite tag team, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know. It's just like
I would agree with that.
Always like
They're not a great tag team. They just happen to be at the right place, right time.
I would say that. I mean, War Machine is like twice as good as AOP.
Agreed.
Oh, at least.
But
yeah, for sure.
AOP has been in some great tag team matches. War Machine has also been in 2 of my favorite tag team matches of all time.
Right. I was going to say, especially on the brand.
But yeah, like
we'll get there.
Like I gave this match, like if you just want to take the angle away, if you stopped it from the bell ringing to bell ringing, I would have given it like 4.25 stars. If you go from the bell ringing to the end of the show, 5 stars, right? Like just because
totally
the story encapsulates the match. Like this is Johnny not being able to defend a title, like which is still playing on to this day, right? This is him dragging down his best buddy Tommaso Ciampa, who is uber confident and who reigns supreme on that brand. You know what I mean? Like those stories are very well told. But yeah, like the match itself, totally cool ladder match. I grimaced at a couple spots, like. Again, like you rewatch some of these matches that you've seen before, and then you remember like certain spots, like Johnny taking that ladder to the chin, like pushing Ciampa out of the way and taking that ladder right to the chin.
Pretty rough.
That shit ain't fake. That you can't work a spot like that. Like he took that thing right to the mouth.
Jason, what'd you give it?
Well, thank you for giving me the out to say that nothing is perfect, because when I initially graded this, I graded from everything from when they come out the back to where the match physically ends. And I'm not talking in this scenario where the bell ends.
I remember you telling me that a very long time ago, and you said it a couple of weeks ago too. You were like, no, the match is from when they start coming out. When they start coming out.
Encompassing. I'm talking entrance. I'm talking music. I'm talking the whole shebang.
Are you giving it a 5?
No, because you changed the rules. You said the match itself.
No, the rules are whatever you want to give it.
Okay, well then don't. I put 5 down and I will stick to it just because that's the knee-jerk reaction that I had coming away from it. You can't sit here and tell me that one of the greatest turns in professional wrestling history, and let's just say the last 10 years. Hulk Hogan is always the one we always talk about, but this has got to be right fucking behind it. You didn't see it coming. That, to me, is a great swerve. It now plays into the fact of Johnny Gargano not be able to defend titles. Now you're dragging Ciampa down. This could have been so much better if Ciampa never got hurt. We had to wait a year for the payoff. And the payoff was great.
So you're giving it 5.
It's a 5-star match. From start to finish, it was absolutely everything you could possibly ask for. And like I said then, and I'll say it now, I thought this Joker was over when the credits came up. I was like, okay, we can go to the bathroom.
It was the first time they really used that
as the setup.
Where you had to wait to the very last second.
So now from this point on.
Until it was Christian and Edge talking about something.
Right. From this point on, I never walk away from NXT TakeOver without making sure the screen is completely black with no words to it. That, to me, is absolutely close to being perfect as humanly possible. This is a 5-star match.
I gave it 4.5. Obviously, it's a spectacular match. It's a crazy angle at the end. My favorite moment, it used to be the screensaver on my phone. It used to be my Twitter, Ursa _ Turbo. It used to be my Twitter Avi, which was just Ciampa just looking really sullen after he put Gargano through the table, which I just love so much. This is when I really fell in love with Ciampa, especially because you're always going to gravitate towards the heels unless you're a little kid. Everybody likes the heels better, right?
I agree. I say I'm a heel guy, totally.
Dude, and Gargano's work here, where this is the first time we start to see the glassy-eyed Gargano, and he's reaching toward his brother in arms, and
it's incredible.
He cannot fathom the fact that this is the man that's actually attacking him, so he reaches out to him for protection.
Right. What did I do wrong?
Him. Dude, that is the moment that I feel that's the moment that I became a Johnny Gargano mark. I was always a fan of DIY because who wouldn't be, right? They even made it into the homage to tag team history, right? In the DIY or the FTR Young Bucks match, they did the meet in the middle. But this is the day that I was Johnny Gargano, man, this guy rules.
So let me ask you guys this. So we're about 18 takeovers into it or something?
Give or take, I would say halfway.
Is this the best one that we've seen?
No. I'll still say Dallas. This is probably at least for me, this is probably the first 5-star match that I've given, but from top to bottom.
I think this is the first 5-star match given out of Banned from Ringside.
From top to bottom, I still like Dallas better.
Zach, what do you think?
Give it? I feel I might have given. Did I give Sami Zayn and Nakamura 5 stars? I can't remember.
Let me flip back through.
But see, that's what I'm saying. For me, Dallas is better because from top to bottom, and I won't even say you threw in Sami Zayn versus Nakamura, but to me, that was one of those matches. You take that plus Bayley and Sasha as the tag team, or not the tag team, but the main event match. For me, it's really going to be hard to kind of say that Chicago 2 is better than this card because, like I said, from top to bottom, I think Dallas is just better. Roddy Strong
and Sasha was Brooklyn.
No, I was going to say.
Are you talking about the one that's Revival versus DIY and Nakamura versus Joe?
No, I'm talking about Sami Zayn and Nakamura was the second or third match on this card. And I want to say Bayley and Sasha I thought was the main event.
Bayley. Asuka Bayley was on Dallas. Bayley Sasha was Brooklyn. Asuka Bayley was Dallas. And then Finn Balor Samoa Joe was. Those are both really good cards. But
I think this is the best one.
I think it might be for me too.
If you consider from bell to bell, from the opening of the show to the ending of the show, when you get the DIY turn, and you also have Tyler Bate versus Pete Dunne, which was incredible. I guess I'm a little bit more bullish on the Hideo Itami versus Bobby Roode match than you are. Agree to disagree, but here we are. This is why we're watching them,
right? And
they are fun to watch.
No, I was going to say this is one of those where I'm glad we get to watch this, especially after a week where I wasn't too impressed with NXT. It's good to see where we were versus kind of where we are.
Let's look at when is Survivor Series?
Your birthday's this week. My birthday's next week.
It's every year.
Hey, spoiler alert.
Yeah, right.
Thanks, asshole.
I thought it was the final week of November. Whatever that final Sunday is. I guess my question with this one is, I guess Survivor Series needs to be more like it was. At least for me, I like to see Survivor Series more like it was, even if it was.
You mean like better?
Well, that goes without saying. But,
okay, so that was Chicago 1. That was May 20th, 2017. Next, we have Brooklyn 3, August 19th, 2017. So all y'all listeners out there, if Brooklyn you guys 3. So Survivor Series isn't next week, so we can do an NXT TakeOver.
So we'll do Brooklyn 3 next week.
So we're going to do Brooklyn 3 next week, if you guys want to watch along, listen along, we definitely invite that, because as much fun as it is to hear us talk about stuff that you hadn't watched recently, it's going to be more fun. Next, it's going to be Andrade versus Gargano. It's going to be Sanity versus the Authors of Pain. It's Aleister Black versus Hideo Itami. Asuka versus Ember Moon. And Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Roode.
Interesting.
That's what we're looking at next week.
Interesting.
Any other final thoughts on this NXT TakeOver? I think it's the best one. I understand where Jason says that Dallas is the best one. Not even going to argue that. For my money, this is the best one.
I'll go this far.
I think it's the best.
I'm not going to die on the Dallas hill, because I know for a fact we're going to have – this is not going to be the Chicago, Dallas. It's not going to be either one as the GOAT of TakeOvers.
But our whole point of doing this,
we're going to find out.
We're going to find out which is the best TakeOver, right?
Like I said, this is where we're going to start.
So right now we're at Chicago and Dallas.
Dallas
are
being the two best, and this is where we're going to start bumping heads. I'm figuring sooner or later we're all going to kind of come to a consensus of which is the best of the best. And now we're starting to get guys that we're seeing in modern day, you know, Andrade, Drew McIntyre, guys along these lines that are still in play, and we're getting ready to introduce them to the NXT universe. And that's where I think the fun is going to kind of lie, to see, especially with like Drew McIntyre.
You're not having fun?
Well, no, I'm having fun. I'm just saying. I'm saying now I think
it's fun to me. I like hanging out with my friends. But
look at Kenta, great example. This Kenta that I see on NXT is nowhere near the Kenta that I see on New Japan, and then to me, it's night and day. The Kenta in New Japan is the Kenta that's funny, and for me to say that anybody is funny in wrestling and I like it says volumes.
Zach, any final thoughts?
I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing more of these, and us debating what TakeOver is the best is kind of like debating like which orgasm you ever had is the best. I mean, they're all pretty fucking good.
I was gonna say ice cream, but Jesus Christ!
This is banned from Ringside.
Hey, there's some birthdays this week. Kalisto is 34. Prince Albert. Do you remember what Prince Albert's name was when he came back as the guy who toured through Asia?
Oh, was it Dick Piercing?
No. God, now I'm not even going to be able to think about it. I was going to say Tenzan. Is it?
He's heating up.
It's not Tenzan.
That's so funny.
It's Dick Pearson. Son of a bitch. Now I can't fucking concentrate.
It was Tensai.
Oh, I knew I was close.
I only had it written down. I just knew it. I liked him. La Parka is 55.
MLW's coming back.
Sunil Singh is 36. Tanahashi.
He's got to be close to my age. Tell me
45.
Tell me I'm right. Tell me he's
How old
older.
are you?
I'm not announcing my age on this.
He's turning 44 this week.
Son of a bitch.
Very close.
Disco Inferno is 52, and these motherfuckers share my birthday.
God, I hate you. You got some of the best motherfuckers that
which
share your
is
birthday.
this Sunday. This Sunday is my birthday. Shima, Tegan Knox. Is that Dakota Kai?
That's the one that keeps tearing up her knee.
I really can't tell. And Macho Man Randy Savage.
Bastard, I hate you.
And Old Dirty Bastard.
Got the double bastard, I hate you.
I almost did the thing this week for our intro music where I just got the Jeopardy music and played it instead.
Oh, you should have
me. R.I.P. Alex Trebek.
True story.
I tried to come up with an AKA for Alex Trebek. Me and Bo did. Couldn't come up with it. The best I could come up with was Alex Trebecky Lynch. But, you know, I'm a dude. R.I.P. Alex Trebek. He is really... I mean,
next to Bob Barker, I think he's arguably the best TV game show
oh my
host of all
God,
time.
I'm going to shut down your fucking microphone.
Bob Barker is Price is Right.
Yeah, but nobody's been there. Nobody has been as ubiquitous in our lifetime as Alex Trebek. He's been there since the very beginning. Am I right, Zach?
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And I think I heard they've been grooming Ken Jennings for the role, and I think that's the only acceptable replacement.
I hear they're also talking about George Stephanopoulos, which
I heard he wanted a woman to take over his role.
Please, no.
Is less cool.
Maybe
Hey,
there's
everybody.
a woman as sexy as Alex Trebek. I don't know.
We know there's tons of podcasts to listen to, so we appreciate you guys listening to
Alex
ours.
Trebek isn't that sexy, just for the record.
For F&B Eatery.
Check.
For Bo Geisman.
Check.
For Jason Cornelius Bell.
Konnichiwa,
for
bitches.
Two Beers, Zach Pullman.
Check.
For Tinder Mahal, who just walked down the stairs.
Son of a bitch. He should have been here for like 2 hours. Now he walks down at the end.
I am Bill
Have fun,
Vega.
guys. Oh, yeah, thanks for the invite.
Check Tinder. Check Bill. I said check
Hang
for
it up now.
2 beers.
And everybody boo the heat.
Boo!